Three quarterbacks on the roster, shakeups at the bottom of the wide receiver and running back room, 53-man roster, 3.0 out of 4. So starting with some guys who might be with an injury designation who won't count against the 53. Now you do have to expose some players and then you bring them back on IR, but essentially when that brief window is over, they won't count against the 53 for 4 to 6 weeks. So we know that Chris Boyd is already done for the year. Special teamer, we found that out yesterday. I think that Allen Lazard and AZ Thomas are candidates to start on that 4-week injured reserve. Now, obviously, they're not going to expose AZ Thomas to waivers. They'd have to do it with somebody else, like maybe a Max Mitchell, and then bring him back. There's some gymnastics there. But you remember the Jets did this something similar with Carter Warren in his rookie year. They didn't expose him, but they exposed someone else. They had Carter Warren miss the first 4 weeks of the season. He was dealing with a lingering injury, and they weren't really counting on playing him within the 4 weeks of the season. I think you could see a similar situation play out with AZ Thomas that will allow them to keep another corner that I like. And then same thing with Allen Lazard. Now, you don't want to cut Allen Lazard now because then he goes to his buddy Aaron Rodgers, and he is that classic week one snitch. We've seen that. That was the Bill Belichick special. So you don't want to do that. But with Lazard, he's dealing with an injury. You keep him on the 4-week IR. Then at the end of 4 weeks, okay, Lazard, you're healthy. AC Thomas, you're healthy. What's going on in those rooms? Has Brandon Smith or somebody else gotten a chance to play? Skinner, are they doing well? Is there another injury at wide receiver where now we kind of can use Lazard? It buys you some time with those rooms. So I think those two guys are candidates for that. We see that every year with a couple of players now that they have the 4-week IR. So quarterbacks, and this one is the first one with 3 QBs: Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, Adrian Martinez. I mean, most likely it'll be 2, but I don't know, man. The longer Tyrod Taylor misses time, if he's questionable for week 1 and they don't want to put him on the IR to miss the entire first month of the season, maybe you do keep Martinez and Tyrod Taylor is inactive for the first week and then he's healthy the second week. Or maybe you want to have 3 quarterbacks in uniform because obviously you get to dress a 49th player if it's a quarterback with that new rule that went in a couple of years ago. And Martinez, he can play. He's an NFL. Martinez to me looks like an NFL quarterback. Does that mean he's a starter? Not necessarily. Does that mean he's even a good backup? Not necessarily. But you watch a lot of preseason football, and with a big enough sample size, it's like, yeah, he looks kind of like the guys who are out there playing backup, third string quarterback, right? We've seen QBs where it's like, oh my gosh, this guy doesn't belong. Martinez, to me, his arm doesn't wow you, but he looks poised. He doesn't look like he made that one interception that was kind of a dumb play. But for the most part, he seems poised. He gets the ball out quickly, and he can move a little bit. So Martinez, I think he's worth keeping around at least on the practice squad. But again, until we get an update on Tyrod Taylor's injury, and you have Justin Fields, who already was, banged up in camp, and Fields is going to have a higher injury risk than most quarterbacks because he's going to be running on the ground 700-800 yards, taking those running back like reps. So maybe keeping a third quarterback around might be something that they do. Offensive line, this has been the same for me for quite some time. 9 here, and this is just going off what they're kind of showing. They're tipping their hand a little bit in preseason. I think we have a pretty good idea how it's going to shake out because you have 7 locks to make the team, being your starters from left to right in Fashanu, Simpson, Titman, AVT, and Membu. Then you have your 2 primary veteran backups in Myers and Okorafor. And then Newman is the backup guard, although he's really the third string guard because Joe Titman is your starting center and backup guard. I think Myers will be the first guy off the bench. I don't know what they'll do at tackle. I think they're comfortable moving Titman. I really think they'd like to keep AVT at guard unless things get really, really dicey with multiple injuries. But they're clearly telling you that their plan A with an injury at interior offensive line is Titman goes over to guard and Myers is in off the bench, right? Yeah, but then Newman is like your third string guard technically. Now Newman can play both guard spots and center. So he does have that. You want to roster at least one backup interior offensive lineman who could play all 3 spots. And Max Mitchell, technically he can play 4 positions. Now, he doesn't play any of them particularly well. I will say In the second preseason game, he and Okorafor did okay. The first preseason game, they were horrid. In the second one against the Giants, they were better. And Carter Warren, he's just out there playing in the fourth quarter. So they've kind of told you that Mitchell is the primary backup left tackle, core four backup right tackle, and then Newman is down there as your like one of your last resort interior guys. So that's how I see it. 9 guys on the offensive line. Leander Vegan will probably be hanging out on the practice squad. I don't know. Maybe Carter Warren will too. It seems pretty cut and dry on O-line. I do think this is a spot where they should on cut down day. I know it's offensive tackle. There's not going to be some great swing tackle available. Could there be an a left tackle better than Max Mitchell? There really might be, because every time Max Mitchell has entered a football game the last 2 years, he almost has single-handedly made it hard to run the offense. So that's a spot I would look out for. Now, with Lazard going to starting on the 4-week IR, that opens up a spot for the wide receiver room, and I think that spot should go to Brandon Smith. And again, you don't have to cut Lazard necessarily. You can kind of buy your time. But I think we know that Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, Arian Smith are going to make the team. I would almost put Tyler Johnson into that lock category. He's been out there with the first team. I will say about both Johnson and Smith in the Giants game, both had 2 awesome blocks. There was Tyler Johnson came in motion and cracked down to open up a hole for Braylon Allen while Jeremy Ruckert was flailing on the floor next to him. Unfortunately, that kind of ruined the play, but it was still a nice block by Tyler Johnson. And then Brandon Smith came around on that first play action boot. He came around on a wham and just blew up. I don't know if it was an edge or a linebacker, but he just completely took out some back 7 defender on the Giants. So you like to see that from those guys. It's going to be important in this wide receiver room. And I know Lazard can block, but if Brandon Smith can block too, and he's shown that he can catch passes, I don't know. I know it's preseason, but this is the information we have to go off of. Am I just going to assume that once Brandon Smith starts playing in the regular season, he's going to drop every pass? You just have to go off what they're showing you. And I think Brandon Smith has shown you 0% drop rate over the last 2 preseasons, 5 games, decent amount of targets, 6 for 6 on contested catches. So until he drops a pass or shows me he can't block, he should be on the team over Allen Lazard. And then Jamal Pritchett seems to be the favorite to be the backup slot receiver / punt returner. So he is Gibson 2.0. I have Smith listed there twice, but yeah, Corley is, I'm only listing Corley because he was a 3rd round pick, but he seems to be like wide receiver 9, which is pretty crazy. Gibson is getting banged up again. So I think Pritchett has definitely overtaken Gibson, and Quentin Skinner is interesting. If there was a 7th receiver, I would say probably him, because he definitely has potential to be a really impactful special teamer and just has a really nice combination of length and speed. Has made a couple of really impressive catches, including the touchdown against the Giants. So Skinner to me would be a priority practice squad player, but keeping the 3rd quarterback, I had to ditch a 7th receiver in this version of it. Tight end, fullback, really no debate here. I think there's going to be 4: Taylor, Beck, Stone, Smart, Ruckert. I think on offense, finding a left tackle that is better than Max Mitchell and finding a tight end, whatever 3, 4 you want to call it, blocking tight end that is better than Jeremy Ruckert. Those are 2 things that I think could reasonably be done at cut down day. But if we're just talking about them most likely keeping 4 and guys on the roster, it would probably be these 4. Ruckert has taken snaps with Fields in both preseason games, so it seems like they like Ruckert maybe even better than Smart. But Smart shown as pound for pound, he's shown the willingness to block. That's something I've been looking at with this team in the preseason, the non-offensive lineman blocking, because it was really bad last year. That's just kind of how things go when you're a bad, poorly coached team. Your wide receivers don't block, your corners don't tackle. You don't get well-rounded football players. But in this preseason so far, Stone Smart's been scrappy as a blocker. Even Mason Taylor, in a limited sample size, in his first preseason action, was pretty solid as a blocker, just getting in the way. But Ruckert, I have nothing left to say. I have nothing left to say about Rucker. Zach Kuntz, Neil Johnson. I don't know. Those are probably more practice squad level guys, but yeah, those will probably be the four if they just go with guys on the roster. Running back, the Donovan Edwards Linsanity run seems to be over, but I still like to keep him on the practice squad. Brees Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis figure to be locks to make the team, and I got to go with Kene Nwangu. I mean, he's an elite kick returner. He plays a pivotal role on the punt return unit. Actually, last year, remember against the Seattle Seahawks, in Nwangu, he returned 100 yard kick return for a touchdown, and he also punched out the ball to make the other team's kick returner fumble. He gave you, and then the Jets got a field goal. And Nwangu, he spotted you 7 points in that game. Still find a way to lose. Impressive. But he spotted you 10 points. 10 points in that game. What other guy on the very bottom of the depth chart is capable of doing that in a single game? I don't see any besides Nwangu. So he should definitely make the team for me. I'm slamming the table for Nwangu. Defensive line, 9 here, same as the other side of the trenches. We know Quinnen, Jermaine McDonald's going to make it. I don't know if Tyler Barron he's a 5th round pick. So even if he sucks, you have to think he'll make the team. The two 5th rounders on the Miami Defenders, I know it's 5th round, so you don't want to be nitpicking here, but it's like, I don't know about those dudes. To be honest, I don't know, man. But we'll put him on here for now, 5th round pick. Yeah, I guess you give him a shot, right? Byron Cowart, Jay Tefele, I think are definitely be a big part of your defensive interior rotation, as is Leonard Taylor, and then Clemens and Watts in the edge room. I'm really not sure. This one could go a lot of ways at edge to me. They could keep a 10th. I think in addition to, we talked about Max Mitchell at left tackle, Jeremy Ruckert at the bottom of the tight end room. And I think edge here, there could be a spot where, Watts, I know he's a good run defender, but the pass rush, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I mean, Michael Clemens is like a significantly better pass rusher than Eric Watts, and that's kind of telling you a lot. I tried, they put out McGregor. He got some first team reps then against the Giants because McDonald, Johnson were both out, and it was just horrible. McGregor has really shown next to nothing in the last 2 preseasons. Watts has at least shown the ability to be a really good run defending edge. But that's kind of what their mold is in Clemens, that 270-pound edge they hope could be a good edge setter. Can you keep 2 of those guys is there somebody who could win a rep with speed? Is there somebody like, is it Rashad Weaver? Maybe. Is it somebody on cut down day? Is it Jonathan Kingsley, number 57, who at least had a sack in the last preseason game? I don't know. Back end of the edge room could go a lot of different ways. It's a spot where I think the Jets should be looking on cut down day. And even if they want to call up somebody old, I know Matthew Judon just got signed $5 million. They're trying to go with the youth movement, but if they want to call up some 31-year-old to go in there, I think that's the spot. If you're going to do one, I think edge is the spot. Linebacker, 5 of them. Quincy Sherwood, locks. I would say Jamin Davis is a lock, and then Kiko, same as Barron. He's a 5th round pick, so he's probably going to be on the team, right? And then it just comes down to if they want to keep 4 or 5. And this one, I have them keeping 5 because Glenn has shown a propensity to play 3 linebackers more, a more standard-based defense. Jamin Davis was out there on the first drive of the preseason game versus Giants with the first team defense, and he has taken reps at edge in his career, so I think he can kind of give you a little bit of a hybrid player to be multiple in your fronts, where you can make it like a 4-3 or kind of a 5-2 if you drop him down to edge. The Glenn did do that with James Houston a lot in 2023, and Houston had some pretty good sack production that year. Maybe he views Jamin Davis in that similar kind of role. And then McCrary Ball, like if they want to keep 5, I think he'd be the 5th guy. Jamarcus Weston, UDFA, who has made some nice plays on special teams. Zaire Barnes, my guy Zaire Barnes, it is over. We kept up the good fight for you, Zaire, but I think I was just wrong, and you're not very good, unfortunately. So he's probably not in the cards, man. Zaire Barnes was picked on repeatedly in the back end of that preseason snooze fest against the Giants. Cornerback, So going 5 here initially. Now then, once AZ Thomas is off the IR, he would join as the sixth guy. Is kind of the idea here. But Sauce, Stevens, Carter, your starters, and then Stiggers. They seem to have a role for him. He started with Sauce being out. He started across from Stevens. So to me, that tells you that they think of him as maybe he's their primary backup boundary corner. Now I know that touchdown had his name on it, but and he did get beat, but man, that was Cisco was just gambling on the wheel route, and then Cisco does that. He's a high variance player. He'll get you 4 picks, but he's gonna give up some big plays as well. And then I want to keep Jared Bernard-Converse because outside of the starting corners, I think he is the best reserve corner that the New York Jets have on their roster. AZ Thomas, I don't know where he's at. He's injured, I guess. We haven't seen him in the preseason. Still kind of wish maybe that was a player we could had a path to starting in the first couple of years instead of peeling off $25 million for Brandon Stevens and immediately drafting his replacement when you had a couple of nice players in Stiggers and JBC. I don't know. Are we allowed to disagree with the Jets a little bit? I think so. But yeah, I like JBC. It's a spot where some good depth is nice to have, and I think the Jets have it. Bump Cooper, elite cornerback name, but he seems to be the odd man out in this one. Safety, this is different as well. I have them keeping 5 here now. Really, Isaiah Oliver, to me, is your backup. He's like your backup both safety spots and nickel. And he plays specials. Isaiah Oliver is a really good roster spot. He started 17 games in Steve Wilkes' defense as a nickel. He played nickel and safety for the Jets last year. He's a solid backup defensive back to have on your team for sure. Tony Adams and Malachi Moore will be competing for the starting spot next to Cisco, but they're both going to make the team. And then Dean Clark, UDFA. Hey, man, not much more you can do in order to try and make a football team than have a pass defended in the end zone, have an interception, have a sack, not miss any tackles in a football game. I mean, it's against third stringers, but hey, that's his competition. If you're trying to make the back end of a roster, that's your peers. So I put him in, and then Jarius Monroe I bumped out, and Jarius Monroe does have corner safety flexibility as well. But those were the 5. So you kind of go a little light at corner, and you have one more at safety because you have guys in Malachi Moore who also is taking reps at slot corner. So you have a little bit of versatility there. Special teamers, Nick Folk, Austin McNamara, who's been awesome. I think you could be looking at a really good bounce back for the Jets special teams this year with Folk and McNamara. And then obviously Thomas Hennessy as the most guaranteed roster spot on the team. Irv Charles is banged up as well. I don't see a spot for him as of right now. And that would be the 53-man roster prediction as we are less than 10 days from cutdown day. And we'll talk all soon.